Can you hear me? And we would have canceled, actually, when we found out that so many people had other commitments and there's illness and what have you. But it was really too late, and we decided to go ahead and just take public comment on whatever anybody wanted to comment on. It'll probably mostly be on the dogs and parks issue, but if there's anything else anybody came here to have some sort of public comment, that's fine too. So that's what we're going to do. I'm not sure we even need to. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance as we always do, and then we are going to take public comment. And I would say if there's anybody here to comment on something besides dogs and the parks issue, I think we should let them go first and get out of Dodge. So that's my plan. So Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you for coming out. It's a little warm in here, I'm sorry.
I want to just catch people up to a time frame like April 13th to now, what we've been collecting.
Yeah, I could do that.
Just generally,
Yeah, let me give you a little background. For those of you who don't know, although you probably all do, we've been discussing the leash, no leash, something in between issue for specifically the Willows and Skunk Hollow for a while now, a long time, and really started to get a little bit more focused in the last several months. We had one meeting that was pretty much devoted to what I call the dogs issue, and heard quite a lot of public comment. Again, tonight we had hoped that tonight's meeting would be largely devoted to the board itself actually having a robust discussion of the issues and saying their impressions, coming up with some of their ideas or recommendations, and also having public input, as we always would. Clearly, we don't have the board here to do that, and I don't even want to sort of prelude that. I think the board will have that discussion at another time, possibly in October, unless something really big comes up that we have to deal with in October. It could be November. But again, for tonight, we'll hear any comments that you have. They will be on the record. This meeting is being recorded. So the board members who are missing the meeting will be able to go back and hear everything that was said. I should also point out that we have received a lot of emails over the past several months covering the whole range of opinions on the dog issue. And all of those mostly from email, all of those email comments are part of the record. They will all be considered as the board deliberates on this matter. So if someone has sent in an email message and thinks maybe it's not going to get the attention that it would have at a public meeting, that's not the case. We will, whatever the medium is, we will consider that input. Anything else I should be saying here, guys?
well, and all the public comment that was recorded on April 13th, that's all on the record still. It's not like we're starting over. This is just a continuation. So if you feel like you already have made your comments, don't feel like you have to make them again. We have them all. We've recorded them all. We just want to make sure that we communicated with the public and that the public communicates with us as we continue to kind of figure out what's going to be best for everybody.
So with that, we invite the public to comment first, as I said, on any issues that are not related to the dog issues, if anybody's here for that. And remember to come to the microphone, say your name and address, speak clearly, so that we can keep track of the comments and who the commenter was. Also, I ask that we all be polite and courteous to one another, regardless of the views expressed, and behave in a manner that will not embarrass our dogs. So with that, if anyone has any comment they would like to make, please come to the mic.
Any comment that's not dogs?
That's not dogs first. I should say, let's do this. I'm winging this. Is there anybody here who has a comment on something other than dogs and parks and leash issues? Okay, right. Let's go ahead with dogs then.
My name's Burke Fitzpatrick, and I live at 402 Locust Road. And I was here in April. I was also the first person to speak in April, and I was here to celebrate the dogs and the wonderful place that we have to be able to take the dogs off there and not worry about anything and also to express an opinion. I'm going to say 7 years ago, I did a lot of deep dive into the law. There is no such thing as a leash law. The dog must be under control. And I will tell you, I recognize a lot of people here, their dogs are under control. If a dog is not under control, we know how to talk to the owner. It's happened maybe one time in the 9 years that I've been going there, 365 days out of the year, every single morning. I saw when I walked to the trail in the last several weeks, there was a flyer that said, continuing the conversation. Well, a conversation is a back and forth. It's not just a comment. I commented the last time I was here, celebrating the dogs, mentioning the dogs' names. I don't know if your policy is the same as when I go before the Board of Commissioners. We don't answer questions here, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Do you answer questions?
Well, that's an interesting point, because I did some research on public meetings, and for boards like this, and this isn't just Radnor, this is sort of a general rule of meetings. Meetings are for the board. And in a municipal setting, the public gets to by law, they get to comment. And I'm not sure there is an actual legal obligation. There may be. What do I know?
Well,
let me finish. Right. It may not be a legal obligation to answer back. I mean, ultimately, the board will take action, so that's an answer. But that said, we tend to have a dialogue with the community. I'm a little loath to do that today without the rest of the board members, because I don't want the three of us to sort of speak for the entire board. I'd rather have the whole board here, because there's a range of opinions on this board too. But yeah, I mean, we will engage.
I'm concerned because we had a discussion in April, and it was overwhelming. There were 2 or 3 people, maybe 2, that were not happy about dogs. And one of the guys was a jogger who jogs in the woods at age 72. Well, I'm 69. I won't jog in the woods. I have a hard enough time walking in the woods. But again, it was the flyer said continuing the conversation. So I want to have a conversation. Who's against dogs off of a leash in the woods that are under control? Who's against?
What I will say is we have, as I said earlier, we've received a lot of email across the board. I do think that once people get the sense that they're in the minority, they tend to clam up a bit. We've all seen that discussion about speaking up in school and speaking up in college, and if you're the minority view, you're a bit intimidated. So we're trying to be conscious of that as well. And so we want to hear from everybody, but we will weigh everything. Everything is on the table. We will make an informed decision about what is the best for considering all the factors in issue: public health, safety, sharing, incidents that we've heard of in the past where there have been, dangerous incidents, which is not an everyday occurrence, but how many times does it have to occur before
Probably
it's considered a problem?
Probably as much as the fox that got loose once in 7 years or whatever it is.
Oh, there's a fox that runs around my neighborhood.
And the police, I was there when the police shot them.
Oh, dear. Well, anyway.
Anyhow, so my question, another question would be, you say you got a lot of emails, and you say all those are on the record.
They
Now,
are all on the record.
if they're on the record, do we have
You certainly
access
do.
to them anonymously or whatever, so that we know what?
Well, I shouldn't speak to that, but my somewhat educated guess would be that under the Sunshine Act, you would be entitled to receive any records of emails or other correspondence between a member of the public and the municipality.
Well, obviously, and you say it's across the board. Well, is it 3 people that don't want the dogs? Is it 20 people that don't want the dogs? Is it 100 people that don't want the dogs? Because I'm sure there's many who do. So if you take a look at the quantity and the opposing views, if it's overwhelming in one way, look, we want to be able to have people come out. We want our dogs to be under control. I had 3 dogs until 2 weeks ago. I never took the other dog out there because she was a German Shepherd and she had an attitude. Wouldn't take her out there. None of the people here have dogs that have attitudes, and if they do, they're either on a leash or not there. So I really don't have anything else to say. Thank you for the conversation. I
Oh, sure.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks to everybody who's come out tonight. I know it's a big night for football tonight, but we'll get you out of here before the game starts.
Hi, my name is Debbie Lemure, and I need to apologize because it was me who wrote that sign continuing the conversation. Sorry if it was misleading in any way. I didn't even think of that. But
Yeah, give us your address, Debbie.
my address is 405 Hastings Avenue. But the reason I wrote that sign is because last time there was a meeting here about dogs in Skunk Hollow, the township put signs out in Skunk Hollow telling us about that meeting. This time, there were no signs put out there by the township. I heard about the meeting because I was on an email list, and so I got a notification that way. And no signs anywhere. Last time, there were signs in 3 different places posted. This time, nothing. And so I took it upon myself to make those crazy signs, and I'm sorry if it was misleading. But it was because you guys didn't make signs this time, so I decided I would. And I did post signs in the 3 places that the township had done it, and then, just a little more, a few more signs here and there throughout, which I will go and remove tomorrow. I'm not going to litter Skunk Hollow, so I will go take down those signs tomorrow morning. But it did concern me that the signs weren't up. It did worry me that maybe you didn't want us here. Maybe you didn't want to hear our voices again. I don't know. I worried. And I do think that even though we came and we had our say in April, the people who walk in Skunk Hollow with their dogs off leash are passionate about that place. They're passionate about the freedom that those dogs have to be able to run in a beautiful setting with trees and water and the beautiful flowers in the spring. It is a magical place, a magical experience that all of us will mourn if you take it away. And it will be taken away. If you tell us to put dogs on leash, it is a different thing. When I'm out there walking and I see a dog on leash, I immediately put my dogs on leash because I know that dog's got a problem. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the woods on leash. And usually, it is true that the dog on leash is the aggressive one. Now, I did say the word usually, but it is usually true, and there have been a lot of studies about that. Dogs on leash tend to be more aggressive because they're trying to protect their owner. They're right there by the owner. They're connected to the owner, and so they become more aggressive. If all of our dogs were on leash, it would ruin that experience that we now have, being able to see them so joyful, running through the woods. So I don't really have more things to say. I also spoke in April. You asked us not to just repeat ourselves, and I'm afraid I'll start doing that. So I'm just begging you to think seriously about the many people you will be affecting. There aren't as many here now as there were in April.
Yeah, we're here.
But if you tell us that you're going to make decisions in October, I will do my darndest to get a lot of people here.
Well, we'll let you know. Clearly, you'll know what the agenda is for October. In hindsight, I'm thinking now September's a very busy month with lots of conflicts with school meetings, and we have illness going on and family issues and all sorts of stuff. So October might work out better. But you'll know because you'll see the website. Yes, I'm sorry. Name and address.
Sure. It's Ronnie Beth Stanley, 515 Hilaire Road. And, I'm with everyone here. We're incredibly passionate. And one of the comments in April was talking about the health of the animals off leash, that you cannot get that type of exercise on leash. It's impossible. I just took a walk before I got here, and we laughed. We said we probably walked 2 miles, and our dogs ran about 5. And that's why the dogs are lean and beautiful and healthy. The one comment I wanted to make is that the signage is really not well marked. So if we simply have a sign that says, dogs are off leash in this I think it's about a third of the willows that we are allowed to be off leash, where the mansion is and on the pond.
No, you're not allowed to have dogs in the willows anywhere.
Right, so there's no one
Anywhere.
sign, there's not one sign that says no dogs.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the willows, the willows, I meant including Skunk Hollow.
Oh, all right. Definitional terms. Willows is the willows, Skunk Hollow is Skunk Hollow. They do not overlap.
And then what's across the street? What is that considered?
Across Darby?
Yeah, there's a open park where people fish.
Oh,
that's
Sawmill,
Sawmill.
across Sawmill Road.
So, anyway, all I would, would ask is that there is some signage that says no dogs in the mansion, because quite frankly, there aren't. I've looked for them. I never had it, and I had no idea that when I came out, I wasn't supposed to walk down to the pond. There's no signage on Sawmill that says no dogs. And that there should be signs at Skunk Hollow that says there are dogs off the leash here. So if you are someone that hates dogs, we are blessed in Radnor Township. We have more parks, and thank goodness, and that's why we choose to pay our high taxes and live in this beautiful township. But it is, I think, one that would be very helpful. So if someone's very frightened of dogs, they can go to Sawmill. They can go to the Willows, and they just skip one area. It's the only area that we have that we can take a hike with our dog and let that dog run.
Wait a minute, let me clarify. So you're saying that people who are afraid of dogs just can't use Skunk Hollow?
No, they absolutely can. I'm saying knowledge is helpful. So if I know that I'm afraid of dogs and there's dogs in this section that are off the leash that will frighten me, I may choose to walk in the parks that are contiguous to it. But if I don't know and I go walking, I'm going to be scared, and I'm going to call the township and I'm going to say, I'm scared. So I'm saying information is helpful for everyone. And I would just reiterate what everyone says. It is how many acres Skunk Hollow is. It's our only place. And it's healthy for all of us, and it's healthy for our pets, and it makes our mental health healthier too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
6 to Socially 675 South Gulf. I spoke at the first meeting. I have a little bit different approach this time. The first meeting, you were very clear about the process you went through to divide the 12 parks you have into leash and off-leash. So this was considered a number of times over a very significant period of years. And it's now published on the websites which ones are leashed, which ones are off-leash. So the idea that people don't know, I love the idea of signs, but the idea that people don't know is wacky. Of course they know. And I want to tell you a little story right now that happened to me yesterday because I think it's germane to the point I want to make. Everyone knows Handel's ice cream, I'm assuming. So I was getting my normal mint chocolate chip shake and some ice cream to take home. And a woman walked up and said, "Have you answered my," right in front, I was just ordering. She just, pushed me away and, well, when that was over, I asked the gal that was waiting on me before the interruption what that was all about. And she said, well, there's a number of parents, mothers,
Sir, I'm sorry.
men,
Could you keep speaking
okay,
into the mic, because we don't...
in the neighborhood who say that mint chocolate chip ice cream is mint chocolate chip. And they are trying to petition us to not use chocolate flakes. They want chocolate chips in the ice cream. They've written to the headquarters. They come and bother us. They do what they did with you. I had a draft number 7. I fought happily for this country and the freedoms that I enjoy. But I'm also reasonable about my freedoms. If I choose to do a whirling dervish, I have that right. Until my whirling dervish, my hands start hitting your head. Now I don't have that right. Now we have an issue. But I find that I'm now living in a nation where the rights of the minority are more important than the rights of the majority. Why would anyone care if it's chocolate, whether it's a flake or a chip? It's because they're right fighters. They have to be right. And now we're getting right fighters trying to intervene in what this township already did years ago. These over here, half of them, or one less than half, are off leash. These are leash. So I am saying, I'll answer your question the other woman didn't. I am saying, yes, you don't like dogs off leash? Go to one of the parks where you don't have to deal with it. And if you don't like that, my attitude, too bad. I had a draft number 7. I didn't get a chance to say, I don't really want to go. I don't like that idea. Don't think I want to die this year. That wasn't my option. These people have options. If they want to go to an off-leash park, I agree, they should know it's an off-leash park. But the idea that we're going to take everything to the lowest common denominator is crazy. I ran global communications for Shell. Believe me, I was one of the people that stopped focus groups. Because I found that if you did what everyone in a focus group asked, you had a commercial that wouldn't sell anybody anything other than boredom. So please, listen to your choices made years and years ago, and listen to the people who are passionate, adamant about their dogs. This isn't about us, interestingly enough. It's about our dogs being able to be dogs. And this, that's not being a dog. That's being a dog on a leash behind a human. We have trackers that we pay for monthly subscriptions. I know where my dog is every second of every minute of every hour, period. I know where the dogs are. When we walk 2.5 miles, doing the loop that we do twice, our dogs, on average, run 17 miles. 17, while we do 2.5. That's what you're talking about taking away. Their health, their mental health, their physical health, their ability to be a dog.
Jeremy Fogel, 429 Hollybush Road.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm scribbling stuff down, so could you say that again?
Jeremy Fogel, 429 Hollybush Road. In April, there was concerns that were expressed by the township specifically that you're looking into. There was talk about erosion. The Department of Health was going to do some investigating. Any update on what the township's considering, what research, what reports? Where is the township on the items that were brought to concern? Looking for some feedback just so we know.
You know, I really don't know how far the Board of Health has gone. I mean, I haven't heard anything new from our department director, and I haven't heard anything from the Board of Health. They may be moving ahead. Something we should definitely check out before the October meeting, so good point. As for erosion and things like that, that is a really big problem. I mean, it just sort of transcends the dog issue. I mean, if anybody's been back there, you know, we had to close down one of the trails because it's so eroded, it's dangerous. But the township is working on that. There's always grants we can look into to get some work done on that. Boy Scouts have been helpful, so.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I mean, in the context of the dogs is when the erosion came up. There was a discussion about it here. So my question is really.
Erosion was caused by all sorts of things. A lot of it was extremely heavy use during the pandemic. And you may recall during the pandemic, the whole world was on that trail because everybody was sort of, you know, in desperate need of getting out of the house. And a lot of people adopted pets during the pandemic. So there was a lot of traffic, and that contributed to what was already an erosion problem. Has the rate of erosion reduced a little bit in the last year or so? You know, maybe. Nobody's out there with a ruler. But as I'm sure you know, there's a big erosion problem out there, and just even foot traffic is aggravating it. So, you know, the more presence there is of anything walking through those areas, the more there's an erosion problem. So
I intended to have an erosion conversation. It sounds like erosion is no
answering.
longer a concern with the dogs, which is great. There was a couple of issues, though, that were specifically mentioned as the reason why the board is reviewing this topic: safety, the Department of Health. So my question is, what's the township research? I mean, at the end of the day, are they going to make a decision based on everyone's opinion? I assume based on reports or feedback or some professional that gives them information.
The Board of Health will make its decisions as a Board of Health. Hopefully, they will consult with us. If not, we will consult with them. This board will make its decisions based on everything we've heard before, everything we're hearing tonight, everything we hear until we make a decision. Everything will be considered. So that is where we are. Again, we thought tonight was going to be a much more robust discussion where you would be hearing the board members talking more about what they think, what their ideas are, what their questions are, et cetera, and unfortunately, that just didn't happen. But again, to rescue this meeting, we decided to at least make sure we heard what the public wanted to say.
Thank you.
So that's where we are.
Okay.
And remember, everybody, that the Parks and Recs Board is an advisory board. The Board of Commissioners makes the decisions.
Yes.
So we, as an advisory board, advise.
Right.
Hi.
Hello. Names and addresses.
Yes, Emily and Molly Berardino, 177 South Spring Mill Road. I want to make sure she's allowed to talk. She's 16.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Honestly, I never thought I would come to something like this. Feel like I'm in a TV show a little bit as a 24 and 16
You
year
are in a
old.
TV show.
Yeah.
Reality show.
But I just wanted to come because this is something that's really important to me, and I feel like our voices should be heard as, you know, people that go to Skunk Hollow and our dogs come. We have a miniature Labradoodle. Every single day, he waits at the door crying for us to take him. Every single day. If we don't take him, he will cry all day. It's what he looks forward to. He loves playing with the other dogs. He loves people. He loves seeing new people, and to take that opportunity away from him. Dogs don't have freedom. They live in the house. They're fed when we give them food. They go outside when we tell them to go outside. They go on a walk in our neighborhood with their leash. They have no freedom. But this is a place where they do have freedom. They can run. They can enjoy themselves. They can meet new dogs. And the idea of taking that away makes me really sad, because I know I will not return. She won't return. My family won't return. If you take away the freedom of our dogs, first, that's so sad, but what other freedom will be taken away from us? If it's taken away from our dogs, that's how I feel. It's like, if you're gonna take away something so simple and mundane as a dog running through the woods, I don't think, it makes me think, okay, what else is next? But I do feel like I wanted my voice to be heard as, you know, a 24-year-old, that it would make me really, really, really heartbroken to have that taken away. You want to talk?
Thank you.
I just wanted to put it on
Did
the
we get
record.
your name already?
Molly Berardino.
Oh, Molly, okay.
Yeah, the same address. I just wanted to put it on the record that if the concern about having dogs off leashes is that they could be aggressive, I just wanted to say that we used to have an aggressive, reactive dog, and even me as a 16-year-old, and when he passed, I was 14, I knew better than to bring him off. I couldn't even control him. We didn't bring him to Skunk Hollow or the Willows because we knew that it was a risk. And I think that if I can understand that as a 14-year-old, now 16-year-old girl, I think that most people know not to bring any reactive or aggressive dogs, or just a dog that they can't control, off leash. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Surely there's someone else.
I don't want to say one thing, but it's...
Make sure you come up, though, so we can get you, we can't hear you, we can't record you otherwise.
Hi, Jessie Cook, 849 Bryn Mawr Avenue, Newtown Square. I just moved, I didn't remember. Nothing new. My dog is my child. I'm not going to have children. They smell. But, no, I'm kidding. I'm a teacher. Love them. But it's my baby. It is amazingly good for him. I also have back surgery, so that does make it a little hard because to like hold on to them on the rocky trail, and that's just like a me thing. I just love to see them be free and be wild and whatever. And just for what it's worth, as a woman walking on a trail, I get startled by men all the time. So if maybe we could tag them before they come in the trail, that would be amazing. But all jokes aside, I know what it's like. I've been accosted by someone, like violently, who was attacked by a dog, who tried to take my purse and my license. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, this is very embarrassing. Mm-hmm. It's Rite Aid. Anyway. So, again, so I've been there. It must have been terrifying for her. It must have been horrible. I can't even imagine it. And I probably would just not go to. But for sure, even if there was something, they need to wear tags, like, we pretty much know, if you have an aggressive dog, don't go. Be just as responsible for yourself. But you need to be wary of who is on the trail, not just what. So there are many dangers. I think we all can just figure out for ourselves what's gonna keep us safe. Also, it'll just really depress me and like pretty much everybody here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Ripley, Winding Way, Newtown Square. I'd like to thank the township for chopping up the 4 or 5 trees that have fallen down because it's made it almost impossible to, unless you're a young man, to climb over them and everything. And our dogs go right over them. But they've done a good job of cleaning up the trees. And the other thing is that when the commissioners, or a group of them, came over about 4 or 5 months ago, they were looking at the steps. That's where the erosion is and going down. Most of us are used to it, so we don't have any problem. But there is that alternate trail that they looked at, which I proceeded to take for about a month, but it seemed like that fell through. But there is an alternate trail that they're cognizant of that you can go without going down the steps. And of course, the other plan with the steps would be to make switchbacks going down, which basically should have been done in the first place.
Oh, that's the first thing they did, but yet that got, as you know, the whole thing is eroded, which is why the Boy Scout, Eagle Scout put in the steps.
Going down, it would just be a gradual descent. The Boy Scouts did a great job with the walkway. The steps are not done right, but they did a good job. I know, it's they're not done to your inspector's thought. They're not 7-Elevens going down, but anyhow, you have done a good job of cleaning up the trees and the whole area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Don't be shy.
I'll just say one more thing about the path that he was just talking about, the alternate path. Rip showed it to me, and I've been going on that path, and at this point, there is a big tree that has fallen over that path. I climbed over it this morning. It was hard. Not fun, but it is a good alternate path, and it would avoid that hill. So Rip is right. If that path could be made into a more regular path, and if that one tree that fell could be gotten rid of or cut through, that would be helpful.
Is that path really that clear at this point?
It is, except for the one tree. There's a big old tree that fell down on that path that needs to be taken care of. Other than that tree, it is, it's a decent path, and it avoids the hill.
Yeah,
so in terms of erosion, it would be helpful.
Yeah, well, I think that's the plan. Yeah, I walked through there in the winter tying little red thingies along, and I didn't realize that it had actually come along because I knew there were a group of Boy Scouts and others who were going to work on that.
It's a decent
So it's already
trail.
kind of evolving, I guess.
And it has flags all the way, so you know where to walk.
Okay.
I get lost very easily, and I did not get lost on that path.
Okay,
Once
good.
Rip showed me where to go.
Good.
So just
right,
get
great.
rid of that one tree that fell.
Thanks. That's news. Come on, guys, there's an hour and a half till the game. Here we go.
But we don't have to use the hour.
Hello.
I just thought there'd be more.
I'm Kathleen Wicker, 675 South Gulf Road. I just want to mostly reiterate what everyone else has said. We love the woods. We're passionate about taking our dogs there every day. I've had multiple dogs my whole adult life and before that with my parents. And I've never had the experience that I have now, which is being able to take my dogs off their leashes and just let them run like animals and go swimming like animals, while I also get my exercise. Now, I have a hard time with my balance. So I started walking with hiking sticks, and it turned into like my favorite activity ever. So now I have 2 for the price of 1. My dogs get to run, and we were just told this week that our one dog who most people know here, Bruce Willis, actually has an athlete's heart. We thought it was a heart murmur. No, it's an athlete's heart because he runs and he swims all the time in Skunk Hollow. I mean, and so I'm ecstatically happy that I get to do my exercise, you know, with my balance, and Bruce and Gretchen the bear, my other dog, get to have all of their exercise. It's wonderful. I'd be heartbroken if you took it away from us like everyone else, and I wouldn't be able to take them and walk with them with 2 leashes. That's the physical reality. I need my hiking sticks if I'm going to walk in the woods. So please don't take that away from us. It's the best experience I've ever had in the 8 states that I've lived in. This is the best experience I've ever had with my dogs, and I just hope that you will not take it away from us. Leash-free is freedom for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marianne Vassbinder, 516 King of Prussia Road, and I also spoke the last time that we met. And I'm a veterinarian, and I work in research. So one thing that we do in research is we try and determine what is best for the welfare of animals, and provide environments that enrich their existence, right, in our care. And so the first part is that, you know, dogs need a lot of attention, whether it's like social with people or if it's also with other dogs. And that's one aspect of the dog park that I really like. And they also need a lot of exercise. And it's interesting because the exercise they need is in short bursts of energy, which is very hard to do when you're on a leash. They just kind of pad along and they never really get that excessive running that way to, you know, it's probably based on in the old times that they had to, the zoomies, but also, you know, just that hunting instinct that they have to run and catch prey and stuff. That's a part of their natural physiology. The other thing, so that's point 1. Point 2 is the nature of the human-animal bond, and that's a very strong bond that we know actually heals people, and that's why dogs are going to hospitals, why there are service dogs. And for all of us, our dogs are healing, and they actually interestingly bring a community of people together. So, you know, there's a usefulness for many of us. Our dogs are sleeping in our beds, you know, our companions in the house. We talk to our dogs, so, you know, they're equal to what would be our family. And so I just wanted to reiterate the importance of that human-animal bond and how healing it is for many of us when we're out in the willows in that most magical place I love. And I've never lived somewhere where I go every day, and I love that place. So thank you for listening to us and giving us a chance to share our views.
Thank you.
Hi, Kate Parker, 624 Knox Road. My question is basically the process. So what's happening here? What happens in October? When are you going to give the recommendation? What happens with the Board of Supervisors? Do we all come back when the Board of Supervisors meet to vote? Do we have any say when it gets to that point, or have they already made their decision?
Yeah. Again, fingers crossed, because if some big issue comes up between now and the next Park and Rec Board meeting, something like Fenimore Woods or something, you know, other big issues, you know, we may just have to deal with that and push this this topic back another month or so. But we will have the meeting soon that we thought we were going to have tonight, which again, I want the board to meet. That's what a board meeting is. We meet. And we, by law, we always take public comments, so there will be back and forth on that. So, yeah, sorry, people don't feel compelled to come back again in October if you've already stated your views. But if you want to, please do. You know, bring all your friends. Do whatever you want to do. After the board deliberates and makes its decision about the recommendation this board is going to make to the Board of Commissioners. It goes to the Board of Commissioners. They will schedule, they will put it on the agenda for one of their meetings. You may want to come out again, especially depending on what this board recommended. I mean, if we recommended something you were happy with, you may feel less compelled to show up. If we recommended something you don't like, I'm sure you will bring in a large crowd. So, but yes, so you may very well find yourself again before the Board of Commissioners making similar arguments. I really shouldn't speculate as to when the Board of Commissioners will take this on, because heaven knows what they're dealing with. And of course, it's budget season now, so, but, in the next couple of months, I guess, I feel fairly comfortable saying that they would take on the issue.
Okay.
In the meantime, it's the status quo, which...
Right, but to speak to you making you just said recommendation with not plural. Are you just going to say yes or no? Or is there going to be...
Well, the issue is more than yes or no. It's not binary. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, there's so many possibilities,
No,
and that's what we really want to hear from people. Is not just I love dogs off leash, I don't like dogs off leash. We'd like to hear some creative solutions so that it's more or less a win for everybody, or at least everybody gets a little bit of what they want. So it could very well be that we recommend some other type of solution, like I can't even begin to think of what, designated times, designated spaces, designated, I'm sorry, Howard? Yeah, take a look, for instance, if you have a lot of time and you're really interested in this, guys, look at the other ordinances in the other townships. Most of them just don't allow dogs off leash, period, that's it. But Tredyffrin and Lower Merion were fairly creative in trying to craft something where everybody gets a little bit of what they want. It's a little more complicated, but the trade-off is everybody feels that they get a little bit of something. So we're open to creative ideas as well. And we may very well recommend something like, we think you should do this, but not just a yes or a no.
Okay, well, speaking to that and creative solutions, who's making those suggestions? Are you guys, or are we?
Oh, we want to hear from you.
Because it seems like anybody who's coming up and speaking, it's just a yes or a no.
Yeah, I find that regrettable. I personally would like to hear some more creative solutions. But in the meantime, the board is also able to come up with some solutions as well. And that's one of the things we would have had tonight had it worked out. You would have heard more of a give and take among the why do I keep doing this? Members of the board saying, well, how about this? And no, that's not a good idea. Or, well, how about that? Whatever. And then having that kind of conversation. So hopefully that's what takes place at our next meeting on this topic, which may be October.
And then just going to the Board of Supervisors, once it gets to them, do we really have any say at that point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
that's not always
once the issue comes to them and we've made a recommendation, they will either go along with our recommendation or completely not go along with our recommendation or come up with one of their own. So it's sort of de novo. I mean, they get to just think the whole thing over again, but they will take our recommendation into consideration because we're supposedly some sort of expert board, but they can do whatever they think is appropriate, and they will be very responsive to their constituents.
Are they going to take the time to look at emails, to look at minutes, to see what people have said?
That is totally beyond my control. I would like to think they would, but maybe something we can do is digest or whatever, and they may ask the staff or something here to give them a summary or whatever. There's any number of things they can do. They can educate themselves as much as they want to be educated or as little as they want to be educated. That's the Board of Commissioners. But I suspect it's a hot button issue. I suspect they'll give it a lot of thought.
Yeah, it's just a shame because people are so passionate about it, and for them not to really get all the information. I know it's available, but they need to know it.
I suspect they will want to know because they answer to their constituents. So,
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, come back.
Kirk Fitzpatrick again. I just wanted to reiterate, it was 7, maybe 8 years ago where I did all this research about the law. Now, I understand townships can create ordinances to be specific to the township, but ultimately what I found back then, and again, I'm not an attorney, my father was, so I grew up in it, and I have a lot of friends that are, and I did a lot of research. what I found back then is that those ordinances can be challenged based on the state law. So if the state law says your dog must be under control, the state law has a law that says if it's a vicious or an aggressive dog, he needs to be in the yard on a chain. That was specific in the state law. So again, I had an aggressive dog. I would never bring her there. None of these people would. I would hope that the township has some kind of lawyer, attorney, legal person that does the proper research, because it is not simple. But from what I learned back then is that the state law supersedes any ordinance, and if somebody wants to challenge it, they can go past the ordinance and challenge the ordinance. So, again,
we got the federal, state, and local laws all here. And we do have an attorney. We have the township solicitor. We'll look at that. My impression, having looked at the laws and the regulations of the state of Pennsylvania, all the surrounding municipalities and the federal government, Valley Forge Park, for instance, state parks, Ridley Creek, they're all pretty clear. And all of them are fairly strict, but under state law, Radnor is allowed to have the ordinance it has. I mean, the under
but
control
they can be challenged.
Well, I don't know what basis they would, I mean.
Well, the reason that they have quote-unquote a leash law, and they don't call it a leash law, they want the dog to be controlled because they don't want them loose on the streets, because obviously you're going to get hit by cars.
Bless you.
And I mean, that is the purpose of the law, and also to keep aggressive dogs, tied up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's mostly delegated down to the municipal level, but Radnor could, if it took such an action based on what happens here and what we recommend. I'm just saying that this could happen. They could amend the ordinance. If nothing else, they could make it more clear. They could make it more clear.
Yeah.
Because right now, under control is, as you know, quite vague. So they could make it clear, yes. They can make it clear, no. They can make it clear something else. And they clearly can't do something that the state law says they can't do. But right now, I don't think there's a conflict between Radnor's ordinance and what you can and can't do under state law.
Well, from the research that I did back then, there is a conflict. The state law supersedes the ordinance, and it can be challenged. The township has a right to create an ordinance, and the constituents can abide by that. But if there's a constituent that has deep pockets, he can hire an attorney and he can bypass that law. Any ordinance can be challenged.
Yeah, you have to have a basis for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what I have here in front of me is not so much saying anything about what a municipality can or can't do, but, and again, anybody can research this. It's pretty easy to research the law these days, is in state parks, dogs are not permitted off leash. In federal parks, dogs are not permitted off leash, but it doesn't really say anything about what a municipality can do in the way of its ordinance. So it's my opinion that right now Radnor's ordinance, as vague as it is.
Radnor did update their signage to say
Under control. That is the language in the Radnor ordinance. For parks. For sidewalks, it's leash. Yeah. And by the way, if you're interested, again, the Radnor, all these municipal ordinances are on their website. So the Radnor ordinances, just, fiddle around and look for ordinances, and you'll see what ours says. And then you can look at all, like, I've looked at Lower Merion and Havard and Newtown. I've looked at all of them. And, pretty easy to find, just sort of intuitive. And you can see what the different municipalities in this area have done. Anyway, so much for that. But if you are curious, you can find that stuff. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Brian Stamen, 408 Sproul Road. Obviously, there's a lot of people here again. You look at the people who actually turn out for this, not just people writing emails, but the people actually, Thursday night, it's beautiful outside, the birds are playing, and I don't know, the people who have complaints don't seem like it's worth their time to actually show up in person, I just want to make that observation here, that, it's, people write emails, but showing up here, you look who's here, right? But that's not what I didn't come here just to say I support the dogs, but I do. But what you said earlier about, hoping to get some more feedback, and I mean this to be as constructive as possible. I think one of the reasons it's, you might be finding that you're not getting as much constructive feedback as you'd hoped is, speaking for myself, not everybody here, I don't think everyone's entirely clear on what the problems really are. We keep hearing that, we keep hearing, oh, there's issues, people have been scared, there are complaints, oh, the Board of Health maybe has concerns, there's all these vague things. It's very hard for us to speak to, like, well, what can we help with? Last time we discussed it, there were some very specific things like the willows, right? Like delineating what's the willows, what's skunk hollow. I understand there's a very clear difference, but for people who don't look at the map or aren't, again, there's not a lot of signage. And last time, one of the very clear, actionable takeaway items was like, let's put some signs at the willows that says no dogs here. And, maybe a sign that says, because people park at I don't, but, some people park at the willows for that entrance to the trails that go into Skunk Hollow from behind the willows, right? It's a popular parking spot, as far as I understand, it's also a popular pooping spot, right? Pooping spot for the dogs,
The whole trails are popular.
And as the responsible dog owners here, we lament that. When I see a dog poop somewhere or a bag, I pick it up and I take it to the trash can. I carry it with me the whole time, the whole trail, along with, quite frankly, the garbage left by humans. Food wrappers, soda cans, junk like that, that doesn't biodegrade. We clean that up too. So in terms of the non-biodegradable litter that's left in the park, humans have a much worse track record than dogs do. But again, just to get back to it, things like the signage at the willows, I think that would help a lot, because I think some people just don't understand that, because it looks like it's one park, right? And I think we're all in agreement here that, there's no dogs at the willows, great. That was an actionable item that was brought up and discussed, and it's been 5 months, and I haven't seen any signs there. Maybe a sign that says no dogs in the willows, and maybe a sign at the entrance there to where the trail comes out to the corner of the parking lot that says, clean up after your dog, or else, $500 fine, whatever, we'll get you. Something to just put a little bit of fear into the people that are not quite as conscientious. In terms of people keeping their dogs under control, we had this discussion about how all of us here, when we see anyone with a dog that's even slightly a little bit too much going on, we say, like, hey, you gotta maybe get your dog a little bit better under control. We really try to do a good job of self-policing that, and so we're left at this point of, like, if you're looking for suggestions, we're happy to help with suggestions and ideas. Because we all spend. If you want to find people who know that park, ask the people who take their dogs there, because we spend, all of us, 12 hours a week there every week. We know that park inside and out. But it's hard to offer suggestions when we don't know what the actual problems are. Just, again, like complaints, issues. Well, how can we offer suggestions if we don't have a specific problem that we're trying to help you solve? Is that?
Yeah, well, very briefly, the problems are people being bitten, people being jumped on, people being knocked over, people being growled at, people being charged with no owner in sight. Those are the most important problems, because there you're talking injury or fear of being injured, which is an assault, which is an actionable legal matter.
Fear of being injured is assault?
If someone, you don't have to be touched, that's battery. Assault is fear of being injured. So if someone comes up to you like that,
right,
that's an assault.
By a dog, though?
Could be, well, if you're responsible for the dog, it could be you. So legal liability issues, injuries to dogs when they get in dog fights. I'm back there a lot too, so I hear this stuff. So those are the main issues. Things like health of dogs, making sure they have their shots, whatever, impact on wildlife, that sort of erosion, that sort of stuff. They're in there too. But I think the principal ones are people being actually having been jumped or attacked or bitten or whatever.
Okay, so it's not
or people's fear of it, so that they feel uncomfortable using the park and feel that there's no adult swim for those people.
Quite frankly, you're never going to solve that last one.
I'm sorry?
You're never going to solve that last one.
The last one being what?
People's fear of things. That society's been trying to solve that for a long time. That's the other things, though. But like and I'm not looking for an itemized list or anything right now. But like the biting thing, for instance. Like how many dog attacks have been reported in the last 12 months?
I don't know. We have reports.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where it's like, if,
And it's it's kind of difficult to just ignore that, so that's why we really feel we have to have the conversation.
sure, yeah. Well, I think, going forward in terms of, because look, I mean, you have a dedicated group of people here, right? I mean, we're not trying to be annoying. We'd all rather be different places tonight too, right? Like the park, probably. Or at the bar watching the game. We're getting ready to watch the game. And, so we're not here to bother you guys. We're here to try to help. And, it's, our perspective is, if we're coming across as just coming here to just whinge, that's not it. If we have some concrete problems that we're given, like about A, B, C, then we can try to help with solving them. So that's, to answer your comment earlier about.
Again, it would be very helpful, next go round or whatever, if people do, come up with ideas on, all right, now that you know what some of the problems that have been reported to us with unleashed dogs in the park, like, well, all right, how could that be addressed in a way that,
Yeah.
doesn't mean I have to, give up walks in the park with my dog. That would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and I think in terms of rather than making this a sort of one-step process where it's all this all this preparation, then one set of actions all at once. Things like signage. That's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
I can get signs made like this weekend. Like I'll do it if you want. Like so I'll pay for them. But the point being that we had that discussion 4 or 5 months ago, and I'm not trying to like throw anyone. I'm just bringing this up as something to point out that I think everyone's agreement the sign thing just so to alert people to the presence of dogs, because again that's an important one. If it's your first time at the park and you're surprised by the dogs, that's a lot different than I'm a little bit apprehensive, but I know that they're going to be here. That's 180 degrees, and the thing about the no dogs in the willows, just putting those signs up, that's low hanging fruit that we could just do right now, and I think would solve maybe 25% of your whatever it is, if that makes sense. Let's make some incremental changes that everyone can agree with right now. Why not do those things, right? So anyway, that was my piece. I didn't mean to talk for so long.
No, that's okay. No, thank you for your input.
6th Oshley, one more time. The last gentleman brought up a really good point. I don't think the idea of being attacked by a dog is not a fun idea, even by a dog owner. The idea, however, of being able to achieve zero anything in the world we live in is a bit absurd. Just ask the people that are still alive in Maui. It's not something they planned on, not something anyone wanted. It happened. We live in a planet where things happen. If you're saying that people have been bitten, we've been going a long time and we've never seen that. But maybe they have been.
15 years.
My question is, what's the rate at Skunk Hollow versus the rate at a fenced dog park where I've seen people get bitten with dogs on leashes? And so the idea that you can get to zero risk, we don't live in a zero-risk world. That doesn't happen. You can get struck by lightning playing golf. I just want to know how serious the issue you believe exists at Skunk Hollow is compared to state or national averages just at any leashed park. I do not believe, I will be stunned if anyone can bring us data to say that Skunk Hollow has a higher risk profile than any other park in the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Arney, 126 Radnor Avenue. It seems like you said there's reports, and there's sort of like this, we have a few reports, but this is something that we do every day. Like this, I go to the park with my dog every day. I see these faces every day. Our dogs play together every day. That is a regular reality. And it seems like we're more talking about hypothetical fears, which is not what laws are made on. They're made on realities and what the regular everyday's reality, you know. And I think one of the reasons why people are so passionate up here is because it's a community there. These are the people I see every day. I know their dogs know my dogs. They have relationships. Dogs are complex social animals. This is part of the way they interact. And since bringing my dog there, I've seen such a massive change in her. Like, she went through a lot of trauma through the whole COVID years. She went through a period of time where she was very leash aggressive in the city, and she's come out, and she is one of the friendliest dogs you can imagine. And she loves going out there, and she loves playing with those other dogs. But one of the practical things that we're not looking at is we're saying dogs off leash do this, this, and this, but we're not looking at the other side of that equation, which dogs on leash act differently. Dogs on leash can get more aggressive. You can be jumped on. These are narrow passes. These are narrow passes with roots, with upright stones, with steep descents. Now, you have an older person. These people walk 4 or 5 dogs at a time. One person goes in there with 7 dogs. Dogs are all friendly. They see my dog, all wagging tails. They're all romping around. You have 7 leashes and an older person holding 7 leashes. That is a physical hazard. They're going down a hill with sharp stones. You have somebody with 3 dogs, and they're older. That is a physical hazard. Tangled, tripping leashes are a physical hazard. And those dogs are going to be more aggressive. You can get bitten by a dog on a leash just as quickly. They are more unpredictable. We are not looking at the other side of this equation and saying this is an actual solution. It is not. It's just something that makes people more comfortable with the hypothetical. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just to go back to a point earlier about the last time we met, about the sanitation aspect, we talked about the potential of adding more trash bins on the trail, because currently there's only trash bins in a couple of spots, which might encourage people to throw their waste away, because I know people are really trying, and you see the little poop bags on the side of the trail where they put them with full intention of picking them up on the way back to put them in the garbage can, but people forget. And, you know, we pick them up for other people. We do the best we can. Also, by the way, that camp that was there this summer left so much trash. We were at the Big Rock picking up those kids' trash daily. And I was appalled. It was brutal. But to add more bins in general, which we talked about at the last meeting, which is a great idea. So. Oh, Mandy Mayock, 224 East Beach Tree. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody who came out, everybody who spoke. And, you know, I'm sorry this didn't turn out to be the meeting that we thought it was going to be, but I'm glad you turned out. We've written down everybody said, and it will be recorded, so we'll have that available as well, and other board members will have an opportunity to catch up. So stay tuned. Keep, you know, monitoring our website for announcements, and I think a lot of you are on an email list that, am I correct about that? And you get notices about these related, you're not? If not, you can find Tammy Cohen, the Director of Parks and Recreation. Her, you know, you can find out how to reach her via email and get on that list if you're interested. Just go to the website and, you know, you'll figure it out. It's pretty intuitive. That way you'll be sure you won't miss any notices.
Or Debbie will let you know.
Or Debbie will post a sign. Yeah, thank you for letting us know that, because that, yeah, we're, you know, there's been an effort on all sorts of things in the township to give more notice about things, and that one slipped through the cracks for sure. Summer vacations, I guess. Okay, thank you again. Have a good night. Go Eagles.